Okay, go. So I thought it would be a good idea to crowdsource a talk having anyone on the internet submit slides. So I went to the website called Reddit, set up a board, and anyone could submit images. The ones that were most highly voted are the ones that made it into this talk. And the thing I found most astounding about this is that the resulting images actually correlate quite well with some of the content that you'll see most of the time on the internet. So I thought I'd talk about that. And the first form of content I wanted to talk about is the idea of memes. Memes are these funny images that we send back and forth between our friends and co-workers, pictures of stupid dogs and cats, captioned, I'm sure you've all seen things like this. But as it turns out, memes are sort of well understood from a theory point of view. And the theory basically says that memes act like organisms. They compete for the limited resources or attention span, leaping from brain to brain and pervading different areas of our society. And it's sort of true that these images are silly and funny, and I'm hearing some people giggling, but they also pervade really weird and interesting parts of our culture, such as this image, which is taken from an American political campaign where the guy that was running decided to run as a joke and spread glitter over all the other candidates, and the following image, which is taken from a video game called Dota 2, some characters from that. The sort of next form of information on the internet I'd like to talk about is sort of this idea of trolling. And what trolling is, really, when it comes down to it, is replying to posts on the internet in a way to get a reaction or make someone upset. It's sort of a bad thing to do. I think most people would say that when they've been trolled, they're not very happy about it. And the reason that trolling happens on the internet sort of also turns out also to be well understood. You're one level more anonymous on the internet. It's much harder for you to have an empathetic connection with the person you're talking to. And because of that, it's much easier to be horrible to them without you sort of being affected by it. As it turns out, my friends got a handle on the fact that I was submitting a talk like this and decided to upload some images into it that had something to do with maybe some character flaws of mine. But within my friendship group, this is sort of a well-understood thing to do and probably acceptable. We all know where the boundaries are, we all know how to do things without annoying each other. But for some people, when these images get created, you know, this is what you referred to as cyberbullying, and it can have a really bad effect on people's lives. I'm sure you've all read news articles and seen stories about cyberbullying happening on the internet. To me, the most poignant example of this I've seen was an episode of a TV show called Educating Essex, where a girl was literally in tears because of some of the mean text messages she was receiving. I'd like to apologize in advance to anyone in the room who likes design, art, typography for the next slide, because it's going to suggest that we should use Comic Sans most of the time. The other thing that I found really interesting about this talk was that my friends' memories span back much further than mine do. They're able to find some incredibly silly images of me from the past. The first day I bought my first Mac was also the day Steve Jobs resigned. And yet, I'd completely forgotten about this, and one of my friends decided to dig it up from literally my second year of university and just post it into this talk, which I find kind of crazy. Let's have a kitten break. The final form of information and communication on the internet that I want to talk about is, I guess, what the internet was originally invented for 30 years ago. The sorts of forms of information that are like art and politics and culture, the things that we use to really spread information and prove what humanity is and what it does. For example, we disseminate information about how we commute to work on the internet. And in the next slide, we'll see the various areas that various forms of commuters take up. So if you're commuting by bus or bike, you're taking up a relatively small fraction of the road. If you're commuting by car, you're taking up a huge fraction. And it's clearly more efficient, but most people can't visualize it until they see something like this. We also curate our history on the internet. This is a map from the Holy Roman Empire taken in 1100 AD. And I guess the point of all this, in reality, is that the internet can be used for the good, the bad, and the everything else. And it's up to us to decide what it means within our culture and what we're going to do with it, and how we're really going to spread information. I'd like to leave you with this amazing slide of this amazing dog who's having a really great time. Thank you very much. Good night, Ignite Bristol.